Hopkins County, and we're glad you joined us for this edition of our program. And we have in the studio my very good friend, a very special guest, and this we could talk about this all day. We're just going to do this for 30 minutes, but we're talking about the Madisonville new transit system that's going to be taking place hopefully in January. And we have with us our very special guest, the Director of the Hopkins County Joint Planning Commission, Mr. Ted Adkins. Ted, welcome.
Thank you, Tim. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you, and this is an exciting time. Now, let me tell you, Ted has been the Executive Director of Hopkins County Joint Planning Commission for 12 years. He is the longest-serving director that we've had forever. And I'm glad to be able to chair the Hopkins County Joint Planning Commission. I've been with the commission now over 16 years.
Longer than I have.
Yeah, and so he's been with us 12 of those 16 years and has done an excellent job. So I want to get that out of the way.
Well, thank you.
And we'll appreciate you and this exciting time we have to be able to talk about bringing a transit system to the city of Madisonville. Can you give us kind of the outlay of how this came about?
Well, it started when, a couple of years ago when we were working our comprehensive plan update, and we were going around to our public meetings, and that's kind of our wish list, our dreams, our big dreams for what we want to see Hopkins County grow into. And the public transit was, or public transportation at that point, was brought up as something the citizens of Hopkins County wanted to see. So through that process, that was included in the comprehensive plan as a transportation goal. And then we, through the conversations, developed that a little bit more and made it an implementation step on our short-term goal, because that's one we wanted to look at fairly soon. So when the plan was adopted at the end of 2014, beginning of 2015, that was our short-term, and here it is, 1 year later, and the ball's rolling. So.
Yeah. And, it's exciting to see how this is all coming together because, as we said, it's part of the comprehensive plan. And before we get into that, when we talk about comprehensive plan, somebody may be watching and say, well, what is the comprehensive plan? What is the comprehensive plan?
Well, that's basically our 20-year vision for Hopkins County and the cities within Hopkins County, because we are a joint planning commission. So that would include Hanson, Madisonville, Arlington, Morton's Gap, Dawson Springs. But not only those cities, but the entire county as a whole. But that is our plan for what we want to see Hopkins County look like 20 years from now. And of course nothing happens overnight.
Right.
So you have to plan years in advance and get those balls rolling. And this public transit is like a perfect example.
Right. The first step in the comprehensive plan coming into fruition with other things taking place. Right.
So, but it looks at housing, it looks at transportation, it looks at recreational opportunities, it looks at employment, and lots of different aspects of living in Hopkins County.
Sure. And so fast forward now to just a few months ago, you and your executive secretary, Cindy Young, made a trip to Hopkinsville.
That's right. After some urging from you, our chairman, we were put in contact with Craig Morris at the PAT office, to ask him, Craig, what do we need to do to get this transit? And he said, you're in luck. And we're like, really? Because Hopkinsville has just implemented their public transit system this past year, and he was like, I can hook you up with Kenneth Johnston, who's the director of the PAC's office, and let you guys talk. So we did that. Cindy and I drove to Hopkinsville and met with them, and left that meeting totally excited, thinking this is really doable.
Yeah.
Because going in, we had no idea. I mean, we'd never put together a public transit system before. But after talking to Kenneth and Craig, we're like, okay, we can do this. Very doable. So we left there, came back, and put our heads together on what the next steps would be. And we said, well, one thing we needed to do was go to Hopkinsville and ride their public bus system. So we went down, paid our dollar, rode around one full circuit on one route, and got to know the bus driver, got to know the people getting on and off the bus.
Did you tell the bus driver who you were and what you were doing?
We did. Of course, Kenneth said, you guys need to come down around the bus. So,
Yeah.
So I don't know if he gave the bus driver a heads up, but the bus driver was really accommodating, answering questions for us, telling us all about the routes, telling us about the people getting on the routes. He was real informative. And you could tell he'd been a bus driver for a while, because everybody that got on the bus knew him. He knew them. So it was almost like family.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. And so the experience was good.
It was.
Yeah. So you came back to Madisonville and started putting a plan together.
Right. Next thing we did is we put together a little white paper to present to the city of Madisonville, Mayor Jackson. And so we gave a little brief history or introduction to public transit in Madisonville, because we did at one time have a bus system. It was before me, but we did have a bus system here in town, and reliable transportation to work. I mean, it was like the number one benefit through talking to the Hopkinsville folks.
Right. And when you were with the mayor, and I happened to be able to sit in on that meeting, it was. We left with such a good feeling, because Mayor Jackson was very enthused.
He was. It was almost like when Cindy and I left Hopkinsville, we were all excited.
It was like everything's just falling in place here.
Yes. I mean, and I think everybody sees the benefit. So I think everybody's excited about the possibilities.
Yeah.
So, but Mayor Jackson definitely was excited. He was like, well, let me talk to the council, and he was gung-ho.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that helped.
Most certainly, most certainly. And once the city council came on board and this type of thing, we're moving toward funding. So give us an idea of how the funding will take place.
Well, this is a grant process. So after we met with the mayor and he showed his support and was going to get with the council for their support, we had to get with Kenneth, because it was a grant application, and I think deadlines were due last week. So all those applications are in. But as part of that, the city had to commit to, help the fund or help the program along. And so that was part of the grant application. But the interesting thing about the grant application is it's a 50-50 match. So the city has to come up with 50% of the operational cost instead of the whole amount. But the real exciting part is the physical, the purchasing of the buses is a 90-10 match. So the city only has to come up with 10% of that match. And I think
that is exciting.
Yeah, and I think this mayor and the council saw that as a great opportunity.
This is kind of like the bus that will be
Right. This is it's a 14 passengers total. 2 of those will be handicap accessible seats.
There'll be 2 buses.
Be 2 buses to start with. It's a 2-bus route. Basically, what we're looking at are 2 routes. One going north, one going south, and they'll converge downtown, or east and west, and they'll converge downtown. The routes haven't been determined yet.
Yeah, that's just still in the phase of doing
right
that.
yeah.
Now, when you say routes, will that include residential areas?
Yes. One of the important aspects of this is to get into the areas where people live, to pick them up and get them on the bus, and then get them to their place of employment, or the grocery store, or the hospital.
Right. What I find exciting about this is because you have a lot of single parents. You have a lot of people that maybe car has broke down, need to get to work early, 5:30 in the morning to get to where they're going. There's just so many benefits. Senior citizens who no longer have a transportation can take advantage of this.
Absolutely, absolutely. Just about everybody I've talked to about it has been excited. And they've, one young lady lived at home. Parents had one car. She didn't have a car. So they had to share. And then, so she was looking at the all the possibilities of, expanded freedom to come and go and not have to rely on waiting for the family car. So, and I think that's
Right, absolutely, and
pretty common.
it is, and what makes it good is because also, say for instance, if I need a ride tomorrow, will there be where they can make a call to?
The way it works in Hopkinsville is with 48 hours advance notice, they can deviate from their route and pick you up, and then hop back on the route and finish the route, and you can get off at whatever stop you need to. So,
where will the stops? Has that been determined? Where different stops will be?
it has not. I guess none of the finer details of the program have been worked out yet, like the stops and the routes and the.
How far north will it go, and how far south, east, and west will it go?
Well, I was sort of say, since it is City of Madisonville route, it will stay within city limits of Madisonville. But I can see it going as far north as, North Haven, the Greyhound bus station. And so technically you could get on a bus outside your house and end up in Tallahassee, Florida, or, wherever. I mean, because you could take it to the Greyhound bus, catch a Greyhound, go wherever. So, I mean, those possibilities are there. But yeah, as far north as, city limit line, I guess.
All four ways, basically.
Yeah.
Speaking.
The industrial park to the west.
And I can see where this will benefit with the new Mar Park opening, the city park,
Right.
this type of thing, which would be good. The hospitals, and especially when it comes to Mid Commons and the new clinic that'll be going up, Hornsborough Clinic. May not take you directly up to the door, but it will get you
in the neighborhood.
Yeah,
Get you within a block or so. Or two.
Yeah. How do you see this fruitioning more? Do you see in the future that it even may going further than Madisonville?
I think the system's built up to expand. Right now it's starting with 2 buses and 2 routes. I think it could easily expand to 3 buses, 3 routes, even just within city limits. But yeah, I could see kind of following that old bus route from the 60s, 50s, and 60s of going to Madisonville to Arlington to Morton's Gap to even Nortonville. I could see it connecting.
I know we've been asked a lot of time about, of course, Walmart moving to Hanson. Will it go as far? But it just go to the city limits,
Right.
and that type of thing. What about the cost? Will there be a cost to this?
There is a cost to ride, and of course I'm basing my numbers on Hopkinsville, but I would think the city of Madisonville, our numbers will be similar. But it's $1 a ride. That's one way. If you have to transfer buses, that's included. So if you got on the blue route and had to end up getting on the red route to get to your final stop, it's still $1. One way, then you can do your shopping or your doctor's appointment, and then when you get back on, it's another $1. So
right, maybe for veterans or other clientele.
right,
would
for
there be?
senior citizens and veterans and active military, I think it's 50 cents a ride, so it's half price. Children under 7, I believe, are free. Children under 12 are 50 cents. Anybody else is $1, I think.
Yeah. Where can you beat it?
Well, I was saying they also have a weekly pass and a monthly pass, so which are affordable. I think the weekly pass is $5 and the monthly pass is $15 or something like that. So I can see something similar here.
Right. I mean, there are even employers. Didn't you say you've heard that where
Yeah, I was gonna
employers
say
have paid for their employers to?
Yeah, where employers have purchased passes for their employees. Yeah.
What are the times this? Is that in concrete? I know it's not in concrete, but what are you looking at
I
as
was
far
going to
as
say
time?
that's another one of those details that hasn't quite been figured out, but based on Hopkinsville, and they did theirs. They originally started with the time frame of I think 6 to 6 or 7 to 5 or something like that, and they realized that so many people had to get to work early.
Sure.
That they ended up starting their routes, I think, at 5 to get people there on time. And they said And even the people on the bus said, if they can get to work, they can get a ride home.
Sure.
So if you work second shift, you can still get there on the bus and then have a coworker or somebody bring you home.
So we're looking at possibly early and 6 o'clock. At the
Yeah,
latest.
I would guess it would probably be 5 to 6, Monday through Friday.
It'll just work out really well too when inclement weather. Takes
Absolutely.
place.
I was talking with Kenneth and the bus driver down there. They said they had missed, I think, half a day, 2 different times during all the inclement weather. I mean, so they worked with the Hopkinsville Street Department, getting the roads cleared along their path, and never missed a day of service.
Wow, and we've stated a lot of times, and I'm sure you can agree, we have a great crew here that really does good at keeping our roads clear.
Absolutely. So I can see us not missing a beat.
Yeah. Exciting time when we talk about our transit system and the role that the Planning Commission taking the lead in this to bring it into fruition. I think speaks well for our commission, but also speaks well for our staff, because you're leaving, I think, an imprint on the city and on the county for future use. What are some of the other things you'd like to see take place with the comprehensive plan and with the Planning Commission taking the lead? Anything else you'd like to see?
I'll also say there's a couple of projects Cindy and I have identified. One is a neighborhood assessments, neighborhood housing assessments, and walkability. So maybe,
which for a layperson means what?
going in and looking at a neighborhood and seeing what needs to be done to get it back to viability, to where people want to live in that neighborhood and people want to, be there. And maybe it's something as simple as they need sidewalks or they need infrastructure, sewer water pressures down. Maybe they need that, but it's, maybe some of the houses are new, some of the houses are old, and you have vacant lots and whatnot. So just an assessment of the neighborhoods to get them back up to where
Sure.
people want to live there.
Yeah, when you talk about the comprehensive plan and different things that we're undertaking to try to do, when people come to the plan, this might be a good time to mention this, when people come to the Planning Commission, and you have a public hearing of sorts, and you hear the commissioners talking about the comprehensive plan and staying in line with the comprehensive, a lot of people don't really understand, why you're doing that.
Right.
Could you kind of explain that?
I can try.
Okay.
So, of course, the comprehensive plan, we went through a year and a half of public meetings and getting public input on the plan itself. Met with business leaders and community leaders and the general public on getting input for this plan on what we wanted to see for the next 20 years. Part of that is a future land use map on how we want to see the land being used. And sometimes that's different than the current zoning map. Sometimes it's the same, but what that does is gives us at least a blueprint to go by.
Sure.
Now, a lot of times they don't have to follow it to a T, but it does give us something to go by. And I think it's vague enough to allow some individual judgment or individual ideas in there, but it's also specific enough to keep you on task, if that makes any sense. But
Right, and the Planning Commission stands kind of as a buffer
to
the city, to the cities and the county,
right.
Before it gets to them, because when the Planning Commission makes their decision and votes, it doesn't stop with them. Right.
Right. The Planning Commission just makes a recommendation to the cities, and then the cities will have the final say.
Right.
But the Planning Commission has gone through the process of having the public hearing, getting the public input, going by the comprehensive plan. So, I mean, they can, like you said, buffer the cities from some of that. Yeah.
Right. Sometimes they'll go along with the
recommendations.
Sometimes they will not.
Right.
Right. This comprehensive plan, let me hold this up because so people can see, it's almost like the Bible, if you will, of Planning Commission. But it is full of information, and if people want to read this or learn more about this, can they come to the Planning Commission?
They can, and it's also on our website.
Okay.
You asked about some other projects we were doing, and
Yes.
the neighborhood assessment was one of them.
Yes.
The sports complex and sports facilities in
Yes.
Hopkins County would be another one.
Which has been a passion of yours
Right.
to see come, because this has went too long of nothing really taking place. That's a whole nother program. I
It
guess.
probably could be, yeah. But the sports complex, you know, the neighborhood assessment was kind of Cindy's one she's been looking at. The sports complex is probably one I've been looking at. Walkability and sidewalks, connectivity, just looking at getting people from point A to point B safely, either by bicycle, by walking, or, you know, whatever. So those three projects would be
Right,
probably next on my list.
right, and good projects.
Every one of them.
Every one of them are good projects. So we are looking forward to this coming into fruition. I mentioned January. Was I kind of in the ballpark?
Yes. And once again, based on Hopkinsville,
Sure.
once they found out they received the monies and the grant, they were able to get it on the ground in January of this past year.
Right. And the reason why we're talking about this is because they said, well, you know, the grant has went in. Are you sure you're going? We're pretty positive now. The grant is going.
I'll sure say.
Yeah, we're pretty 100% sure this is going to take place. Hey, we're glad you've been on Focus on Hopkins County. It was like
I'll sure
to
say
get you here, but
It's
you're here.
been, what, 12 years?
Yeah, 12 years.
12 years you've been trying to get me on here?
I've been trying, yeah. So I'm glad you're here. We're leaving from here to go to the chamber.
Correct.
To make a presentation to the Hopkins County Chamber
All right.
Association to talk about this a little bit as well and inform the city, citizens of the community of what's getting ready to take place.
That's right.
Again, for the number that you want to call is 270-825-4457, or you can visit the Planning Commission at the old historic courthouse in the basement, room 12, and learn more about not only the transit system, but anything else you'd like to know that has to do with the Hopkins County Joint Planning Commission. So we encourage you to do that. Our guest today has been Mr. Ted Adkins, who is Christy's husband. And he's been our guest today. He is the executive director of the Hopkins County Joint Planning Commission. We hope that you will tune in again to our next program. I'm your host, Tim Thomas. By all means, keep sharing your dreams.